Hi there, my name is Daryl Stringer, and in this video I'm going to give you a quick introduction to what you need to be doing with your photography if you want to be shooting real estate. Now, there is a lot to learn when it comes to real estate photography, so I'm not going to be able to cover everything here. We're just doing a quick introduction, and the three things that you really want to get right, or at least know how to get right when the circumstances require it, are: one, make sure the verticals in the room, such as the walls and doors, are also vertical in your photo. Two, have accurate colour throughout the shot, so whites in the room should look white, not excessively yellow or blue. And three, no blown out windows unless the situation requires it. So in other words, if you want the viewer to be able to see what's outside the window, then you need to be able to show what's out there. Okay, so we're going to work through each of these, and first of all we'll look at how to ensure your verticals are straight. And this is probably the one that most beginners to real estate photography get wrong. They're all excited about taking a photo of a beautiful home, and they work on their composition and making sure the room is bright enough, but they neglect to straighten the verticals, and the photos look like they were taken by an amateur. Fortunately, it's really easy to get right, and there are two ways you can go. One way is to ensure your camera is perfectly level. You see, if the camera is angled down just slightly when you've got it on your tripod, then the room looks like this. But if you get the camera level, then you won't see those converging vertical lines. Now, the difficulty with this is that sometimes the composition of the room requires you to get up a little bit higher, like this one, and when you do that and you want to keep your camera level, then you're going to be showing too much ceiling, and that's not good either. So sometimes you need to angle your camera down slightly, and you could use a tilt shift lens to fix that in camera. Here's a quick screenshot from the Canon website to see their range of tilt shift lenses, and they do some great products. They aren't cheap though, so you do have to spend quite a bit on them, but they are a really good option in able to fix everything up in camera. Another option is to fix the verticals in Lightroom or Capture One or something like that. So let's go into Lightroom now, and we'll show you how it's done. And what we want to do, just apart from making any color changes or changes to exposure, is we want to scroll on down. We're in the Develop module. We want to come on down to Lens Corrections. First thing we're going to do is just put a tick in each of these boxes. We want to just take out any chromatic aberrations, so any of that sort of purple or green tinging that you might get around the edges. And then we want to enable profile corrections for the lens that I was using. So you want to just make sure that the correct model lens and the correct profile is selected there. And what that's going to do is just try to sort of remove any, I guess you might call it some curving going on you might often see. That's just a result of, around the edge of the lens. If you're using a really wide lens, some of them can give a little bit of barrel distortion for those, and we want to fix that up. But then you can still see that the lines are coming in. So what we want to do, come on down a little bit further, and we can select one of these options here for upright. There's a guided upright tool that can work well. We can have a look at that. Often though, you can get a pretty good result just by hitting vertical. So if we do that here, you can see that's actually done quite nicely. If it's not quite right, you just come down to here to transform. You just might need to just tweak it a little bit. It's sometimes too your horizon, your rotate might be a little bit off. So if that's the case, sometimes you just have to tweak that. If that's not quite right, then trying to get your other verticals right just won't happen. So you've got to make sure that your horizon line is nice and level as well. If we just switch that off, and if we just go to our guided upright tools, so what we want to do is just, as it says there, draw two or more guides to correct things on here. So fortunately this does a great job of showing us the lines. So we can just click on here. Where is it, that line there? Just trying to get it right on top. Sometimes this is, there we go. So we've got that one, and then we'll come over this side, and I might just go on this edge. This looks nice and clear here. Click on that edge. There we go. So you can see there it's automatically just sort of pulled everything out and just made a big improvement. There the image is all nicely straightened up, etc. now. So I'll just show you another quick example there. Okay, so once again in this image we're in the develop module. We come on down, we make our lens corrections first up. Make sure the right lens profile is selected. And then we just want to come on down and get these uprights correct. So we'll just try vertical. There you can see that's just, I think it's just slightly overcorrected. If we just bring up our grid there, and you can see that line, this line here on the window is actually angling in. It's gone a little bit too far. So we're just going to make a slight tweak there. Just want to get that right so that everything's nice and straight. I think also we've got a little bit of rotation. So I'm just going to just move it around slightly, just so we can get everything straight, and then we might just need to make a slight change, just like there. If we just want to drop it just a little bit more. Okay, I'm actually just going to manually enter that in, just so we can get it just right. There, that should be about it. So now we've got everything nice and straight. So you can see it's really easy to do. Just a couple of little changes here, and it just makes a really big difference. Now the next thing we want to be aware of is having really good color, especially for those interior shots where you've got different light sources and maybe some tungsten lighting or some cool outdoor lighting from outside. So we want to make sure that there's accurate color throughout our scene. So let's go back into Lightroom again. So if you're shooting in a room with tungsten lighting, then you'll probably have a raw file that looks a bit like this. There's a lot of yellow and orange in the room. Those whites are definitely not white, so we really should be seeing white here, around the bath or the spa, there in the corner. So what we're going to do is get our color picker right up the top. So this one here, white balance selector, and we want to click on something in the room that's supposed to be white. So we can try here. That's done okay. We'll try another point. Yeah, very similar. Again, we can go over that side. That's made it a little bit cooler. We can then make some very subtle changes if we want to, just in our color temp. Let's just have a bit of a look. If we just bring it down. Maybe that's just a little bit too cool. Just going to warm it up just a touch. Yep. So you can see there that we've made a really big difference from where we were initially. Just to be able to get some really good color, it's really, really important. There are some issues here at the back, and we'll deal with those a little bit later. But sort of trying to get these whites to look really white really makes a difference. Okay, so let's say you get your photo out of Lightroom and you've made your color corrections, but you still have this area of color cast in another room, or maybe just some other light temperature coming in from somewhere, and you just want to change that small area. It's really easy to do that a number of different ways, and one way I like to do it in Photoshop. So we can see here just the blue light. Actually, I've got a little bit of reflection from the camera there as well. You'd probably want to remove that, but just a little bit of photoshopping will get rid of that. I was nearly able to hide it. It was a tricky one here with this mirror right in the corner, and I just about got it out, but just not quite. So what we do to get rid of this is really easy to do, is we just duplicate our layer, and then what we do is we pull back on the blue saturations on this top layer. So we open up our hue and saturation, and we go to our blues. Then what we're going to do on the saturation is just pull it all the way back, and you can see there that's just removed all of that blue. From here we just might try maybe a little bit of the cyan as well. There's a little bit of that Yeah, there's just a little bit of that light there too. So just pulling back on that has removed it from here. Now, in this particular shot, there's no other real blue in the area, although there is some in this window. And there might be a little bit of reflection in here as well. So what we're going to do is apply a layer mask. So what we do is we can hold down the Alt key and just press there, and that's just going to mask everything out. Then we get some white paint, so some white paintbrush, and we just come in and just paint over that layer mask. So just painting all around there to then show this top layer, but we're only hiding the top layer in the area still painted black. So if we want to pull that out there as well, we can do that. I'm inclined to leave this. This was outside where it was sort of quite late in the day and quite bluish, and that's probably okay. I'll leave that there, but you can see now we've sort of removed this, and it's just looking much less blue from where we were, which was really standing out, and now it's much more muted and closer to what it actually was in that room. So really easy to do and doesn't take too much at all, just by adjusting or duplicating your layer, adjusting the saturation color or levels for the particular color that you want to adjust for, and then masking that in on your photo. Now the final thing we need to be able to do is to avoid having blown out windows when it's appropriate to do so. And one really easy way to do that is to take two exposures. So we bounce our lights around for inside with an exposure for inside the room. So when we expose for inside the room, then we're probably going to blow out the windows, as you can see here. So if we want to see that view of the garden outside, then we take a second photo exposing for that outside view. If we do that with no flash, then we end up with something like this, where we can get good exposure outside. We can see the garden and the grass, but inside's going really, really dark. And although it could be done, it would be really hard to cut all of this out from this exposure and paste it into this one. So to help with all of this, what we do is we take our flash and we point them directly at the window and take a photo that looks like this one. So you can see our flashes pointing straight out. We actually got a little reflection that we'll need to deal with, but that's really easy to handle. So we've pointed flashes straight in here. We're not bouncing them, we're firing them directly at the window, and we make it really bright. We give our flashes inside a lot of power. So what we do is we've set our shutter speed to expose for outside. So that might be 1/13 of a second, as it was in this image. It was quite late in the day, so it wasn't too bright outside. Or it could be 1/160th of a second for our shutter. What's important is that outside is as bright or as well as exposed as you want it to be. So if you want to keep it a little brighter outside, then you set your shutter speed at an appropriate level to just slightly overexpose out the window. The important thing though is in how we work on these images in Photoshop. So we have our two photos. So here, inside, and there's our interior shot. And what we do is we copy our window exposure and we place it on a new layer above our interior photo. So what I'm going to do, just shrink that down, just select all, and then I'm going to copy. So just Control C or Command C to copy over onto this layer and then paste it on top. So we've got our background layer still there, and then layer one sitting on top of that. Then this is the important part. What we do is we change the layer blend mode on the window layer sitting on top. We switch from normal and we go to darken. And what that does is it says that the pixels on the top layer should only show through if they are darker than the corresponding pixels on the bottom layer. So that's why we had to flash the interior around the windows, because then those wall pixels and window frame pixels are going to be lighter than the pixels on the bottom layer, so they're not going to show through. But the pixels that show the view outside, out here, will be darker and they will show through. Okay, and then what we do is we simply apply a layer mask like this. And then we make it all black, so we can sort of just press Alt when we do that, or if we need to, just get our paint bucket tool, and on the layer mask, paint everywhere. And then what we do is we just get our white paintbrush, change it to white, and we just go in and we just paint everywhere. Just going to do a little bit around there too, just to ease in that edge of the seat there. Okay, good. And then we go over to our other window. Just get our paintbrush size right. Okay, and just paint over the window just like that. If you've got any reflections, you might want to paint over those as well. Let's just see if that works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so it's just watching over the edge here. You can see over this front edge it went a little bit dark. It just didn't get quite enough flash in. And it's also a bit dark just along the carpet. So I'm just going to do this a little bit just to cut that out. There we go. Oops. There. Actually, I'm just going to take that shine out just on that side. There we go. So just to show you there, if we just go over, oops, with our paintbrush, just over the edges, you can see it's having no impact over these areas because these areas went quite bright when we fired them with the flash. So you can see it's done really well. It makes it really fast just to quickly paint over that, and we can do anything we want on the floor and other areas around here as well. So it's really, really quick and easy to do, provided we have this set to darken mode. It just makes it really, really simple. Okay, so that's kind of done it with doing our windows here, but we just did get these little reflections. So just to remove those, I can probably just work on it on the top layer, and I'm just going to grab the patch tool, and I'll just quickly patch around that, pull that away, and then just do the same thing here. There, just to remove those reflections. Normally, if I was being a bit more careful, I would have taken another shot where the flash reflection was in another location, and then it's a quick and easy sort of mask it in. But let's take a look now at another example, and we'll see how quick and easy it can be once we use the action. Okay, so here's another set of photos. You can see our bounced inside shot, and then our window flashed window exposure. So what we can do then is just use an action that I've got here to make this really fast. Let's see, I should be able to find it here for you. Yep. So it's just called Blend for Windows. I've got a shortcut there for it called for Shift, Control and F8. So that's one that I've added. You might have something different. You can assign any shortcut that you like. But what that means is that I just need to hit that shortcut. And what it will do is automatically copy this photo, place it onto this layer, change the layer blend mode to darken, add a layer mask, black it all out, then get the white paintbrush so I'm ready to go. So let's just see how that works. So we'll just run our action there, and it's done it all, and then we just get in here and just start painting. Like that. And that's about it for the window. We can do this reflection here. I just want to watch that yeah, that's turning out pretty well. There we are. Just a little bit there. Okay, and so you can see how fast that is just to quickly bring in that new window. We would then flatten it down, and that one's all ready to go now as well. So as you can see, it's really easy. It's really quick. In terms of editing time, it's going to take you about a minute per photo, often less than that, as you just saw there when I just had to quickly mask in one on top of the other. And that's really important to get that time down, because your photography business will not be viable if you're spending 20 minutes editing a single photo. It's just way too long. We'll talk about that in another video, but it's really important to keep your editing times down. Okay, so that's a really quick introduction to getting the basics right in real estate photography. There's a lot more to learn, but if you know what you need to be working towards, then you can start to work on how you are going to deliver images that meet these 3 important criteria.